Hey everyone, Matt here from Docs Running, and today we're going to do a comparison review of the Ultra Experience Form and the Topo Ultrafly 5. Now the reason for this is on paper these are actually really similar. There's some of the few rare low drop stability shoes that have an anatomic toe box. There's a couple other that have lower drop and some stability, but not that have an anatomic toe box. The Ultrafly for years has been a go-to clinical shoe for me that I've suggested for different people with different foot and ankle issues that maybe a higher drop thing wasn't great if they got some knee stuff, but they needed something that had some mild medial stability and an anatomic toe box. So for a long time, this was one of the only ones, and now the Ultra Experience Form, which has quickly become one of my favorite stability shoes of the year, is another one to add. So the hope is, if you are looking for some of these characteristics, which one might work better for you? So let's start off with specs first. Weight, I don't have 100% because the Ultrafly never got any weight, so I measured them out myself. So I am a men's size 10. In my size 10, the Ultrafly weighs 10.3 ounces for men's size 10, women's size 11.5 comparatively. For the Experience Form, comes in at 10.1 ounces. So very, very similar weight in the same size. In terms of specs, they're also really similar. Ultrafly is 30 millimeters in the heel, 25 in the forefoot. The Experience Form is 32 in the heel, 28 in the forefoot, which they're really nice to actually say that in the inner part of the shoe. So thank you, Ultra, for that. Very similar specs, 4 millimeter drop over here, 5 millimeter drop over here for the Ultrafly, but they actually feel quite similar in that regard. After that, things actually start to change. So the fit is different, the ride is different, and how stability is done different. So let's talk about those things and compare them. So first, I'm going to start with fit because it's one of the things that make these two shoes unique. Yes, they both have an anatomic toe box, but how that is done is different throughout. So the Ultrafly was very surprising because it actually fits fairly wide throughout. Volume's not crazy. It's fairly normal volume in terms of height and like expansion, but the width is very wide. It was wider than most of the Ultras that I've experienced, and certainly wider than the Experience Form, but you have lots of room to spread out your toes. So if you have a wider foot in general, the Ultrafly 5 is probably going to be the best option for you, whereas the Experience Form is kind of normal to a tiny bit snug. It's kind of very, very common for their Experience line. Just fits a teeny bit more snug. There's still plenty of room in the toe box. You can still easily spread your feet out. Just the overall fit is slightly more snug, a little bit more performance-esque. So if you have a little narrow to normal width feet, the Experience Form is going to probably work better for you. If you have wider feet or you want a really wide shoe and not just the anatomic toe box, not really wide, but you want a decently wide shoe, the Ultrafly 5 is probably going to work better for you in that regard. When it comes to the midsoles, again, the Ultrafly is now a little bit softer than it was in the past, but it's still on the firmer end compared to the Experience Form, which is also slightly firmer than a lot of those shoes out there. But the midsole materials are relatively different, even though I believe it's the same compound. Do not quote me on that. Please comment below if you know what each one actually is. But the Experience Form is a little bit softer overall. It's also a tiny bit more flexible compared to the Ultrafly. It's just, to me, felt a little bit more stiff. Not too bad. The transitions are really smooth between the two of these. The only difference in terms of transition is the heel in the Ultrafly is a little clunkier to me because of that posterior flare that you can see, whereas the Experience Form has an incredibly smooth heel. Ultra has been doing great on their heel bevels, really nicely beveled, feels great, super smooth ride. So if you want a smooth heel, the Experience Form is going to be a little bit better for you. But overall transitions, even though the forefoot felt a tiny bit stiffer, this actually feels a little bit more flexible initially, and then the Experience Form catches up really, really quickly. Really quick, by the way, on outsole stuff, the previous Experience shoes I haven't had great experiences with in terms of the durability. I have 20 miles on both these. I am wearing through the outsole a little faster on the Ultrafly. The Experience Form is doing better. So durability wise, the Experience Form takes the win. In terms of how stability is done is the last thing that's going to be very, very different. So one of the rare shoes, the Ultrafly, that does still have a medial post that you can see here and a heel clip. The Experience Form does it through a very large sidewall that goes from the heel all the way into the midfoot. The Ultrafly also has that kind of similar like stability through the length from heel to midfoot. It's just going to be done really differently. I really enjoy the Experience Form because it sits right up against your foot. It feels really good for longer standing or for running, kind of just guides you in really nicely. It feels like it's kind of like the bowling ball, the guide rails analogy, which is what they're going for. The Ultrafly has that post feeling. It takes it a second to break in, but if you like the feel of a medial post and like pressure coming up rather than from the side, the Ultrafly is going to be better. For me personally, I like sidewalls a little bit more, so the Experience Form is kind kind of the one that I prefer, but you may have different opinions. So both of them are great shoes. It's great to have two anatomic low drop stability shoes now on the market. And I want you to know, if you tried both these, what do you think? Do you agree with what I'm saying? Do you disagree? Let us know below, because I think these are great shoes, some of the top ones, and I'm really excited to see how they continue to evolve.